Folks, we have had two amazing episodes with Dr. Melissa Balknight in Charlotte, Mecklenburg. She's the deputy superintendent there. Over 141,000 students in Charlotte, Mecklenburg. In our first episode, Melissa talked to us about a really comprehensive plan around what they consider the three E's. Either we're going to enroll, we're going to enlist, or we're going to look at employment for all of our students. Melissa talked about how all of the community support that's involved, the resources, ensuring that parents are connected, ensuring that the children truly understand that concept in elementary. So when they actually get to the actual 12th grade, they're ready to do one of those three E's. The second episode, we really focused on how do you bring a team together to facilitate something that amazing when we're looking in a district with 141,000 children? How do you bring leaders together to ensure that all children are successful? And when we're saying all, we're talking about capital A, capital L, L. That is all of our babies, all right, are successful in our school district. In our last episode, I really want this last episode to really revolve around advice. Melissa is an amazing administrator. She's been a principal. She's been assistant superintendent, a deputy superintendent of large school districts, smaller school districts. But listen, what advice would you give if I'm a leader? Let's say I'm an assistant principal, and I really want to lead my first school. If I'm a principal and I really want to be kind of an assistant superintendent, right? If I'm an assistant superintendent and I'm looking at really being a deputy superintendent, what kind of advice would you give those leaders as they really begin to look at successful strategies?
Robert, thank you. Those are great questions. I think the first thing is that you have to be willing to be a student.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is don't I've got my master's degree,
that's it.
I know everything, now I'm an assistant principal.
Right.
The beauty of the additional opportunities that you can have with additional degrees
Mm,
is that you now have a collective group of people that are coming together for a common mission that they have hopes of doing something to impact education.
right.
So don't discount the fact of coming together for whether it's a post opportunity or an additional degree, coming together with a collective group of people that have a common vision.
Right.
Oftentimes, states and districts will have an aspiring superintendent's program.
That's true.
Consider one of those programs as well. The other thing that I always say is that when you make the commitment to lead,
Mhm.
make sure that you are leading at all times. People are
Right.
watching you all the time, not
That's
just
it.
when you're in the office, and make sure that
Right.
you're thinking about your social media and other things, but that
Right.
you're also talking to your village at home, whoever the village is. For me, I
Right.
have a husband and one son. And so anytime I take on new responsibilities or have an opportunity, I meet with them first to make sure, are we going to do this as a family? Because
Exactly.
your work and your leadership opportunity impacts everyone. And so I can't
Exactly.
be successful in this role if my family doesn't understand the commitment that it takes, because it takes a
Exactly.
lot of time to do this work, and you have to
Right.
enjoy it. I love what I do every day when I come to work. I
That's
think
it.
about what else can I do to help kids, and then to also make sure that you don't ever get too far away from the work. So I'm
Right.
the deputy superintendent, but I really want to be in schools as much as possible because that
Mhm.
is where the work that we do here shows up. And make sure
Right.
that you have all types of members on your team and in your village that will give you honest feedback about how the work is landing.
Right.
Also, make sure that you have people that support you along the way in your journey so that you
Mhm.
can continue to have opportunities for promotion. If there's
Mhm.
a district opportunity to be on a leadership team,
Take
sign
it.
up for
That's
Make
it.
sure you put yourself out there so that people know you and understand the skills that you bring. And don't be afraid to lean into your uniqueness, because leaders
Exactly.
are not looking for cookie cutter leaders. They're looking for
No.
people that are willing to do the homework, do the research, and do the work and to lead. Don't
Right.
be afraid to fail forward. I say to my people all the time, I would much rather you fail forward,
Right.
because that mistake won't ever happen again, than to be afraid to make a decision or be afraid to leave, because that
Mhm.
holds us back. That keeps children from having opportunities and access to supports and programs. So
Mhm.
we have to continue to be cutting edge and willing to take some appropriate risk for kids to make sure that we give our kids the very best. And as a leader, you also have to remember that it's never about you, it's about the work. And so making sure that you keep that in mind as well as you move forward in your leadership opportunities on your journey.
I love it. Just in our 3 episodes, there are a couple of things that I've learned. Okay, first the 3 E's, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you talked about the 3 E's. Then, I start slow to move fast, right? Then you talked about hiring hard, right? Now
Mhm.
you're talking about what is it? Failing forward. I love it. I got to
Right.
use that
That's
too.
right. That's
Yeah,
right.
I'm telling you, I'm going to be using all of your stuff, right? My next, my next podcast, I'm going to be using it all. But I think you covered the entire gamut, right? You talked about, and all of it revolves around, like this level of commitment. First, starting there, right? This is a level of commitment for me, but this is also a level of commitment for my family, right?
That's
And
exactly.
understanding that as you take leadership, I love that, Melissa. As you take leadership, it doesn't just affect you; it affects your personal life. It affects
Mhm.
your family, right? And you're
Mhm.
always a leader, no matter where you are. You can't you can try to turn it off, but the perceptions are it's always on. You are leading no matter where you are. That's number one. Another
Mhm.
thing that I heard you talk was about, but you have to learn. You've got to make sure that you're always engaging your craft. You never know
That's right.
enough. The
Right.
leaders that feel like they got it all together, folks, they don't have it all together. They're because it's changing, it's evolving, right? So you've always got to be on the cusp of the new, the new strategies, the new practices, the
Mhm.
new best practices. Another thing you
Mhm.
talked about was keeping yourself connected in
Mhm.
networks where individuals are talking about
Mhm.
those best practices, right? So
Mhm.
not only am I hungry for best practice, but I'm making sure that I'm connecting and ensuring that I'm always connecting with individuals that have those best practices and that
Mhm.
failure piece. We are in our society, and just a lot of us have A-type personalities. Man, we hate to fail, right? And usually failure is the best piece on leadership because you never forget it. You always
That's
remember,
right.
oh no,
You
you
remember
never
that.
forget when you fail, right?
Mhm.
You sometimes you forget when you're successful, right? You forget all the successful years, but you never forget when you fail because those are always your learning experiences as a leader. For you to be like, you know what? I failed, but then I've got to do better this time, right? Another thing
Mhm.
you talked about was, you know what? Always be prepared as a leader, right? You don't know when the coach is going to put you in the game, and you got to be
Mhm.
ready, right?
Mhm.
You got to be ready, looking at the coach like, coach, put me in the game. I can win this one for you. I can win this one for you, coach. All you got to
Mhm.
do is put me in the game. I can win this one for you. But you've got to
Mhm.
be ready, you've got to be committed, and you've got to want to jump in that game.
Mhm.
And you have to understand a knowledge of self. You all have different strengths, but you
That's right.
finished really on a knowledge of self and understanding what you said was your uniqueness. We're all
Mhm.
different and we all bring
Mhm.
different parts of a team. Understanding that is then understanding the people that you need around you as you
Mhm.
begin to build your team. So,
Mhm.
folks, Balknight gave you guys some great strategies here. I'm talking about, I mean, if you rewind that, what you need to do is you need to rewind that and listen to that about 3 or 4 times and take some notes on that, right? Because when you get your school, when you get your district, when you get your leadership position, you got to think about what is your vision? How do you bring people collectively to that vision, right? How do you listen at the same time communicate? And then how do you make sure that you make people feel like they're a part of what's going on, right? Not just looking at you tell them what to do all the time, right? How do you make people feel like that they're a part of things? Melissa,
Mhm.
thank you so much.
Mhm.
Dr. Balknight will be at our NDPC conference this October from the 12th to the 15th in Orlando, folks. We're going to be talking and digging deeper into, Melissa works in a district that has 141,000 children, but her work, what she's talking about, can work if you're in a small rural district or you're a huge district with 400,000 children, right?
Mhm.
So we're going to be talking about these strategies in October, and we are looking forward to seeing you there. So again, thank you, Melissa. This is concluding our third episode. But folks, make sure you connect with the family and make sure you're there in October for us to continue to talk through these strategies.